The drawing of the wife. There was once a man named Campak. He was poor and slow-witted, leading a lonely life, and a shed no one wished to marry him because of his low intelligence. Late one day, a young girl presented herself right at the door of Campak's house and asked, "Could I spend the night in your shed?" It was the first time that Campak had ever met such a beautiful girl, so the man was very welcome to have her in the house. That night, having dinner, the young girl asked, "It looks like you are living alone. I also no relatives. Would you wish to accept me as your wife?" The nuptials made Campak both excited and worried about doing his job. He was so fond of his young spouse that he didn't want to leave. He even assured, while very often the straw shoes he made were unexpectedly either 1 meter or over long because he constantly looked at his wife, not concentrating on doing his job, and so were the straw raincoats, which were sometimes 2 or 4 meter long and fitted no one. He then went outfield, and in an instant he would run back home and call to his wife, "My darling, are you there?" So every day the man had little time concentrating on doing his job. The wife said to herself that the man had no intention to work, so she would go to town where she would get an artist to draw a picture of her with the picture back home. She said to Campak, "My dear, here is the picture of me. Have it hung on the mulberry tree near you so you are able to see me while working out there on the farm, and you need is just not a long moment that we are away from each other." Campak did as what being told, but he constantly took a break to look at his wife in the picture, and from time to time he also ran back home for a check. One day the picture was blown out into air. Campak managed to chase after the picture, but in vain. After a while the drawing was out of his sight. Weeping, Campak ran back home, telling his wife about what happened. She comforted the man, saying, "My dear, don't be sad. I will go to town to get another one for you." Meanwhile, the picture, which was swept away by the wind the other day, eventually settled down in the garden of a castle. The landlord of the castle found the picture and developed an affection for the girl in the drawing, saying to himself, "There will certainly be a real person if picture," and to bring her to him. The servants of the landlord with the picture of the girl searched village after village for anyone who knew her. Finally, they got to the village where Campak lived. They asked the residents showing the picture, "Do you know this girl?" Looking at the picture, the villagers replied quickly, "Oh, this is Campak's wife." Indeed, the servants met the beautiful girl. When they arrived at Campak's shed, the woman looked completely similar to the girl in the picture. "We come and bring you to our landlord," the servants said, trying to escort her out. "Please don't take her away," Campak pleaded. His plea was in vain, and the man began wailing so pitifully that his tears created a hole in the ground. A wife said, "Don't cry, we cannot deal with that now. Listen to me, please. When you have to go to see me, don't forget to bring along pines for door decoration. Then we will see each other and we will make it." She could not finish speaking before being brought away. Campak threw of his every day and asked himself if it was time for him to go for her. Suddenly he heard someone say that the New Year season arrived. He then set off the direction of the castle with a big bunch of fresh pine branches. He said to himself that he would see his beloved wife soon. Arriving on the doorstep, the man started to peddle his wares. Pine tree, fresh pines for the New Year celebration." Having heard her husband's voice, the girl in the castle began to smile. It was the first time that the woman laughed since the day she was bought into the castle. The landlord of the castle felt happy to see her in such a high mood. He got the servant to send the pine seller, and having seen Campak, the wife became more delighted. With broad smile she looked at the man, causing the landlord to begin to say to himself, "It pine seller can cheer her up. Why don't I make myself a pine seller?" The landlord had Campak swap the clothes with him in the shabby outfit, making him look like the pine. The landlord walked around in the garden crying his wares, pine tree, fresh pine tree for the New Year celebration. By so doing, he made Campak's wife even more joyful. She clapped her nice hands, laughing cheerfully. The landlord was satisfied to see her laugh. He continued dancing around in the garden with pine branches carried on his back. Pine tree, fresh pine tree." The landlord kept repeating, dancing around in the garden, and then unexpectedly out of the castle door